where brevity is paramount.
Hello and welcome to episode 1 of Chet and John's reassuringly finite gaming playlist. My name is Chet Roivas.
I'm John Denton.
And we are a couple of veteran video game journalists, having written for various places like 360 Magazine in the UK.
Like the Telegraph, Games TM, Play, Official Xbox Magazine, loads and loads of places over the years.
There you go. Okay. Right, so here's how this is going to work. Basically, every week or every 2 weeks, John and I are going to compile a list separately of the 10 games that we've been playing the most over that period. So anything, iOS games, arcade games, but as we both write about games for a living, it's going to predominantly be about stuff that's new. We're also both very big fans of brevity, so we're going to try and cover all 20 games, providing there's no crossover, there'll be 20, in no longer than 40 minutes each time. We're going to start with the games we played the least and work our way up to the games we've been spending the most time with. So, go ahead.
Let's
kick
go.
off. Number 10.
So number 10 for me is Fly With Me on iOS, a game that I reviewed for Pocket Gamer. It's perhaps the most cynical game I've ever played,
Why?
to be honest.
Why?
It's a game starring a little friendly bird, straight away, an iOS game starring a little friendly bird. You know, you're
Angry
worried.
Birds, of course, yeah.
Yes, but it's not actually like Angry Birds. It's more like the little Facebook PopCap game, Pig Up. Basically, you tap the screen to make the little guy flap.
Oh, Pick Up, that was wicked, though. That was really good.
Pig Up was good. Pig Up was good. It's a perfectly fine, playable game. There's nothing special about it. But every time you die, basically, bollocks. Every time you die, basically, you'll get a pop-up on screen. I can see that you've not done very well. How about you pay for a new power?
Oh, nice.
How about you pay to unlock the whole game? Bear in mind, you've already paid for this game. It's not a free game. So,
How much is it?
It's only 69p, but at the same time, all of those games are only 69p pretty much. So you're still operating in a marketplace where everything costs a certain amount. So relative to each other, it's just so ugly and artless. I mean, it's a perfectly fine game, throwaway stuff, but the way it shoves these microtransactions in your face, it's a kind of worrying indictment of where we're going with stuff like this, especially with the little friendly bird as well. It's like, come on, guys.
What did you give it in the magazine? Or did you write
The Pocket Gamer gave it a 6 because taken as a video game, it's fine. It's playable.
Okay, fair play. Okay, my number 10 is also an iOS game. It's Inspector Gadget's M.A.D. Mad Dash. You played that?
Inspector Gadget? No, I've not thought about him since the Matthew Broderick film.
No, that's unfortunate. And so's this game, but I don't know why I'm so compelled by it. I downloaded it about 6 months ago, probably a bit longer ago than that, because I think it was like, it's either permanently free or it was free then as like an offer. And it's quite, when I played it the first time, I was like, this is all right. It's kind of a cross between the iOS version of Mirror's Edge and that. What was that jetpack game you showed me a little while ago?
Oh, Jetpack Joyride.
Yeah, it's kind of like a combination between... Yeah, I mean, it's like... I was playing it, I was like, this is actually all right. The controls are slick and it's nice and... it's... Yeah, I thought it was like, it's perfectly fine. And then I got to level 2. I take it you haven't played it?
I've not touched it, no.
Oh, okay. When I say that there is a difficulty spike in level 2, I am really not fucking joking. It turns into the hardest game ever made, and I am actually... I don't just think it's impossible, I know it's actually impossible.
I want to play it now, just to see.
Yeah, I would like to, but having looked at the user comments, everyone says the same thing. It's too hard, I mean, the first level's pretty tough, but I like that. But level 2, that's the end of the game as far as I'm concerned.
If it's still free, I'm going to play it.
Okay, right.
Check it out.
Well, just because I want to know if you can get past it. But I've been playing it on and off for 6 months, and I can't put it away. But it's such a cool package. There's like... You accumulate in-game currency, you can buy little weapons for him, and you can download, you can sort of unlock full episodes of the cartoon to watch on your phone.
Really?
It's a lovely little package, and I'm just like, they fucked themselves so royally by making the difficulty so... It's a joke.
Can you buy later levels? Is that what they're doing, or have they just fucked it up?
I don't think you can... I know you can buy little extra things to help you, but the game goes so quickly. You're basically racing along at such a ridiculous speed that you can't control anything that's happening, so... It's a fucking...
You're really selling it to me.
Yeah, no, give it a try, just because it's... Yeah, give it a try. I mean, it's like a really nice package, but I'm just like, you guys have got talent. and you're considerate. It's just a really nice, thoughtful package, but you're also dumb fucks because you make the most. There's level 2, honestly. Let me know if you can get past level 2 because I don't think it's possible.
I'll check it out. Right, talking of reasonably hard games, probably not as hard as that. My number 9 this week is Shank 2 on 360. Did you play Shank, the first one?
I think I played the demo. I didn't play the full thing.
It's all right. It's a 2D, really stylish 2D sort of hack and slash platformer. Said slash twice in a row there. It's basically the same game as before, but everything's a little bit tighter. So even for what looks like quite a simple game, it somehow uses every single button on the controller. So you've got one to kind of pounce on your enemy, one to chuck grenades, one to chuck knives, 2 different attacks, like a juggle, all sorts of dodge button like God of War. You can use the right stick to dodge. All of that stuff's really good, but still after about an hour, nothing really changes. And because it's flat-planed, unlike something like God of War, you don't really have the scope to experiment with combos or anything like that. And it doesn't have anything clever like Beautiful Joe or quite the depth of something like The Dishwasher. So it's fine. It's only 800 points as well, which is decent for Xbox Live Arcade these days. But if you played Shank 1, yeah, I don't know if you'd bother.
Thanks for reminding me of Beautiful Joe. What a fucking game that was.
Certainly.
Fucking hell, okay. That sounds dry, but 800 points, I like that because, yeah.
That's more like it for a game like that. It's a solid price, and it's a perfectly well-made game. I don't want to be harsh on it, but it's just so tough. There's so much out there at the moment. Why would you play Shank 2? Unless you have to, like me.
Okay, fair point. Okay, my number 9 is Soul Calibur 5, which I like quite a lot. I think they've really aced the online side of it. Have you played much of it online?
I've not played huge amounts online, no. When I was reviewing it, the online was broken, basically. It was too laggy. So I've not gone back to it since it's gone live and in the wild.
It's good. I mean, they've basically ripped off Street Fighter. Well, I say ripped off. They've implemented all the great things that Street Fighter did when Super Street Fighter came out. So, you've got spectator lobbies and tournament options and sort of... it's just a fucking slick package.
That's good.
I still don't know about the campaign because that was... I mean, it was fine, but, it's all about the
online. It's a good story, though.
I love the way they got the guy that writes those stupid intros, the ring announcer. He clearly wrote the story as well because it's all sounded like that, and I couldn't take it. But it's but the only thing that's bothering me about it is I can't handle facing 1,000 killicks. It's going to make me want to snap the disc if I keep playing it too much.
People dressed up that look like someone else but are still killick.
Yeah, but everyone's killick. 1,000 killicks. That's who you face.
Soul Calibur 5, 1,000 killicks.
That's what it is. Honestly, stick it on, and if you don't face killick in your first bout, something's very, very wrong.
It's the best Soul Calibur, though, isn't it?
By far. Online, especially. When you compare it to what the online side of 4 was like, it's night and day. Definitely.
Awesome. Right, my number 8, back on iOS. Been doing quite a lot of iOS this week. Is a little game called Furmins. It's like a little puzzle game from Housemarque. The guys that did Dead Nation. They did Super Stardust HD on PS3.
That rings a bell.
They did Outland recently as well. Finnish studio. But to look at it, it's just a stupid, cuddly little twat of a game. But when you actually get into it, it's a really nifty little puzzler. Basically, you've got a bucket of these little things called Furmins, and you've got to get them to a goal. And you do that by moving crap around the screen, like trampolines, stones, conveyor belts, stuff like that, and then letting the little guys go. And they all fall, and it's like a Rube Goldberg contraption, basically. When you get it right, they all sort of fall and move through the things and bounce off the trampolines, and then get them in the goal. And after a few levels, it gets pretty devious, to be honest. And I don't like the aesthetic. I don't know why they went for little cuddly balls. But, it's one of the smarter games I played on iOS for a while. And it's not a game that feels out of place on the system either. You play so many where they're trying to get you to play with a little thumbstick on the screen, or it's something that should actually be on the Vita or even on a console. This feels like it was designed for iOS. It's cheap, 69p again, devious, and, it's a decent game. Good way to kill train journeys and stuff like that. Get you thinking. Has
any iOS game that launches above 69p got any hope in hell of success?
Well, we'll talk about one later, but I think it's a real difficult, unless you've got an established brand or perhaps you're an established studio. I think it's that $1 mark in America, isn't it? Pushing above that is tricky. Very, very tricky.
Genuine. Okay, cool. All right. So where are we? Number 8. Okay, my number 8's Dead Island, which I picked up again so that me and some friends could go through it again on co-op.
Underrated.
Oh, massively underrated. A fantastic game, but I did it initially on my own, and a few people came and sort of jumped in intermittently, and I thought that was the ideal way to experience it, and I loved it. But doing it with 3 mates, as I've been doing over the last week, it kind of loses something, because you all end up multitasking, and you're all sort of racing around doing your own thing, and it stops being... I just completely lost interest in what everyone was doing. You pass someone a half-finished quest, and someone will say, "Oh yeah, I was doing that." I mean, if you've got the focus to do it all together as a group, then fine. But me and my friends obviously do not. So I think I prefer it as a single-player experience, to be honest.
I always thought that I'd prefer. I didn't really play much of the co-op. A couple of people dived into my game last year, like they probably did with yours, but. Yeah. As I was playing it, I was thinking, I don't really want other people coming and helping me. I kind of like the somber tone of it, even though, the cutscenes and stuff are terrible. Once you actually got into the game, and this is something that I think a lot of people missed, it was actually quite artful in places, and there was some quite neat storytelling done through just little props and things like that, which games can do very well. And I thought having 3 other people hacking everyone up and running around would you'd lose some of that mood, especially the first half of the game.
No, I agree, but it was like a deck of cards. We all started out as a group doing it, and then you'd see so and so has just accepted a quest. You're like, what? And then he goes and does that. And it's just that's why it fell down for me. But I still think it's like, if you haven't played Dead Island, it's well worth getting hold of.
Yes, apart from the cutscenes, probably the worst ever.
Yeah, okay, maybe.
Talking of cutscenes, I went back to Metal Gear Solid 3, the HD version.
Oh, I did that as well. Yeah.
Now this is the first ever game review I ever wrote. Off my own back, just for like a forum about 7 years ago, and actually managed to land my first job through this review, so the game's got kind of a special place in my heart because of that. It came out first time, I think, within a week or 2 weeks of Resi 4, so for me it was like a ridiculous couple of weeks for gaming. And it's still definitely the best Metal Gear for me. Doesn't take itself anywhere near as seriously as the other ones, and has some really smart systems where you actually have to look after Snake. And I mean, some of the stuff's a little bit clumsy, the way you have to feed him and patch him up, but it kind of connects you with him in a way that, no other games actually managed to do since or before. So it's still completely unique in that way, and it has lots of gags, lots of cool Cold War stuff in there, and the stealth gameplay's still good, despite the controls being a little bit clumsy these days. It's still tighter stealth than almost anything else, and with a bit of humour as well, because stealth can be pretty dry when it's not done very well.
I think far and away the best Metal Gear, I reckon. Did you play Peace Walker?
I haven't played it yet. No, I will do.
That's really, really good, actually. Okay. Really good. Okay, my number 7 is my special boy, my special needs boy, Neverdead. Played
Keep
it?
on rolling.
Have you played it? Oh, you only did a bit of the multiplayer, didn't you? Or did you play the campaign as well?
No, I didn't play the campaign. No.
Campaign's underrated. I like it. I don't know what else to say. Nobody agrees with me. Well, almost nobody agrees with me, and I like it.
Rebellion do.
Well, you don't know that.
That's true.
I love how. I mean, there's something so charming about the fact that it was directed by a Japanese guy, made by a British studio, and all they want to do is appear like they were made by an American studio. So there's just weird. You come across the weirdest shit in it. Like, one of the main guys always refers to the 2 girls as "you lot" in an American accent, which just sounds completely wrong. And what's the other thing he says? "You little bleeders," he says. He calls these little things that with an American accent just doesn't sound right. But yeah, I like it because it's a shit game that you can make good because the tools are there to stop it being repetitive, because you are given all these wicked things to do, and people clearly weren't interested in doing that. So at the moment I'm going through it again, killing everything.
You're going through it again?
Yeah, but I'm whenever possible, I'm trying to do everything, just get kills by falling debris, like hacking up the environment, and gathering them all. It's a different game essentially, but there are many ways to play it like that, and I just like how flexible it is. It's underrated. I mean, it's a shit game, but it's actually, I like it a lot.
Okay. I still don't think I'll play it after that multiplayer experience.
Yeah, the multiplayer is a fucking washout. So yeah, but the single player is underrated, boy.
Right, on to my next game, which is a game I think we disagree on slightly, which is Grand Slam Tennis 2 from EA. I don't love it. My main criticism, the ball never goes out of play. Now, you can still play a fun game of tennis without the ball going out of play. It didn't really go out of play in the old Virtua Tennis games either, but they were kind of arcadey, and they were much better than any other tennis game anyway at the time. But now for a game that's kind of purporting to be a simulation, not having the ball go out of play, out the tram lines or the back of the court is criminal for me. I mean, that's the tension of tennis is trying to push for the corners, push for the back of the court to try and drag your player out of position. But that risk, the risk of doing it, is that the ball might go out of play. But in this game, it never goes out. It very, 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 very occasionally goes out, maybe once every 3 or 4 matches. But that's not tennis to me. So you lose all of that tension, and in the end, you just get rallies, which are fine, and the animation's fine. I quite like the right stick system. It's well implemented. It works, but I don't know. It just was so far behind Topspin for me. So far behind as a tennis simulation.
But it's so I love. I mean, I didn't think there was space for another tennis game, but that it does inhabit the middle ground. I thought it was absolutely wicked, and the controls are brilliant.
Did you think it was as good as the first one? With the cool caricatured characters. And things.
That was a great Wii game, and this feels like, those controls immediately felt so advantageous. Whereas like something like Full Punch Control in Fight Night, I was using the buttons until Fight Night 4. Whereas this, straight away, I was like, yes, I'm going to get into this. And the structure of the campaign was just wicked. Where they made it a breeze. And then they started ramping up the AI slowly. So you started off beating like Djokovic and Andy Roddick and stuff, and then you had to fight to keep your space. And I thought that was great. I don't think it's better or worse than either Virtual Tennis or Topspin, but they're all in their own way excellent.
Yeah, like I said in my review, tennis is a fun game, and video game tennis is almost always fun.
That's a very good point. What number was that? Fuck. What, we're 18 minutes. Okay, so what was that, your number 7?
6, isn't it?
Is it? I don't know, you tell
me. That's the 5th one I've done.
Okay, my number 6 is Grand Slam Tennis 2, so we've just done that. So move on to your next one.
Okay. Right, number 5, a game called Hero Academy on iOS. Now, sounds stupid, sounds rubbish, and I reckon I wouldn't be able to convince you to play this, probably, unless I say these words. It's like Advance Wars meets Words with Friends. That's what this game is. It's an asynchronous strategy game. You don't have tanks or anything like that, like Advance Wars, and it is a simpler game. You use little wizards and knights and all those little fuckers. But basically, it's turn-based, asynchronous iOS strategy game. It's using tile-based grids. So your turns, you have like 5 moves per turn. That's the best way of putting it. So you can move your little wizard, you can upgrade him, you can heal something, and then you send it across, and then you wait however long for your opponent to do the same thing. So matches can go on for days, or you can sit there playing just like Words with Friends. It's really, really good. I've played a lot of random people online. They've smashed me up. I'm looking for real humans to play that I know, that I can kind of learn the game together. But I can see it's a good game. I think it's 69p again on iOS.
What the hell was it called again?
It's called Hero Academy.
Right, okay, I'm going to snap that up. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's really good.
Okay, my number 5 is Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. Chinny Reckoning, as I call it.
Chinny Reckoning.
And it's wicked. I was, having seen it in the past, over the last couple of years, I was just like, I don't need that in my life. But it's actually the RPG side of it, although it's familiar, the fact that you can completely rebuild your skill tree whenever you want is just, I don't know why. I presume that every decent RPG is going to implement that at some point, because it means that you don't have to play through the whole thing again and go a different way. You can just change everything on the fly, and the combat is banging. It's a banging action game as well as an RPG.
Because you're not normally a big fan of the Western style RPG, or really. even the Japanese style RPG. No, it's not really your area.
I mean, no. It's part of my job, so I mean, I review them.
Of course. Yeah.
I don't think I'd necessarily do them in my spare time, but I grew to love this one really quickly. And having been done with Skyrim for quite a while, it's if that gap was something that I needed to fill, that would be perfect. Everyone I know who loves Skyrim, I've already told them to go out and buy it, because it's just it's good, very good.
So
indeed.
Where does the combat compare to, say, God of War? It looks similar to God of War.
It is kind of similar, but it's a lot more simplified. You're not doing complicated button combos and stuff. It's mainly 1 and 2 buttons at a time, but that's the best comparison. There's like QTEs implemented and stuff. It's like a sort of slightly simplified God of War, but it just feels great. It's slick. They really worked on that side of it.
That is the area where this genre falls down. Even Skyrim, for all its amazingness, and I do love that game, but I mean the combat is just there to serve serve the action. Really, it's not really anything. Doesn't really have its own systems that are worth talking about. Talking of combat systems, though, I've just been playing Yakuza Dead Souls, which is a very, very, very strange game. So kind of like a weird mix of terrible controls, open world RPG stuff, and cutscene heavy melodrama, which I know you'll love because you love a good cutscene.
I like the Yakuza cutscenes actually.
The Yakuza Dead Souls cutscenes are really long and
They're always
stupid.
really long.
There's a few gags, but I mean the game is fundamentally a stupid game because it's a zombie invasion in Yakuza, the same area of Tokyo where the other games are set. Where it really falls down though is you probably expect it's a shooter. It's not like the other games which are more melee brawler combat based.
Is it open world?
It is open world. All of those elements of the Yakuza games are maintained, but instead of kicking and punching the zombies, you're shooting them. But unlike every game ever, where you've got one stick to aim, one stick to move, little target on screen, like every game, it doesn't have that. You just auto aim at the zombies and run around, and then try and turn the camera to face them, and then auto aim. But if a lot come near you, and you have to kind of run away, and the whole game is just a nightmare of trying to wrestle these controls in the right direction to shoot them. But weirdly, despite all of this, it's actually quite enjoyable. I think purely because it doesn't feel like every other game that I play. It's clearly flawed, hugely flawed. It's a terrible control system, but just because it feels like something different. The first hour, 2 hours are actually quite good fun until it became just a real struggle and a real trudge. So it's just a real trudge of a game.
Trudge. I like that world though. I like those characters. Is it all the? I mean, it's all like the same characters and stuff.
Yes, yeah, it's like the who's who of the previous games. You kick off with Akiyama from Yakuza 4, and then you move on, and some of the other guys from the older games. One guy's now got a minigun for an arm. Like all that stuff's done really well, but playing it's just like you have to compare it to other zombie games, and there are a lot of them. Dead Island, Dead Rising, Resident Evil. I mean,
yeah, no contest.
Yes.
Okay, my number 4 is the Halo Anniversary, the remake of Combat Evolved, which is still great, but I bought it to play through it on co-op because a friend of mine, me and a friend, did it on co-op when it first came out on the Xbox, and we wanted to do it again because it still stands up as a fantastic game, but there's something very fucking wrong with the co-op. And 343 have acknowledged it, but they've done it in that kind of snide way, which implies that they're not going to fix it, which is really irritating because it can't be played. The lag is so extraordinarily bad that you can't really play it. But I was trying to think earlier of a situation where this has happened before, where a studio have got another game on the horizon, an eagerly awaited game, and they kind of end up slowly hiding behind the hype of that so that they don't have to fix something that didn't work in the last one. I think that's what's going to happen because we're desperate to play that on co-op, and there's been no indication that they're actually going to fix it.
That's a real shame because I've only played it on my own, and it's just a really nice, well-made kind of love letter to the original game, really. But until you say that, and that. But
having done it on my own, having done large sections of it on my own, the AI in the first Halo still does stuff that it never did in the other ones. I'm still convinced that they perfected it then, and they've only sort of chipped away at it ever since. I don't think I've ever had experiences playing Halo, even playing this remix, that compare to anything in the others. I think this is it's still the best Halo. I thought Reach was, but going back to this, I'm like, this is the one still.
I was amazed at how good it was when I got to the second level and was playing with the elites, and they were tricking me again, and I was like, oh shit, how the hell did they get it this right that long ago and nothing else has got close?
I reckon
people talk about good AI in other games, but
yeah, they've tinkered with it too much, I reckon.
I still love the AI in the later games. I mean, they have a lot more going on with the brutes and everything like that, but I know what you mean. I do agree with you.
Things happen in Halo, which is like, yeah, you're completely flummoxed, and that hasn't happened to me in any of the other Halos. I don't think, not to that same degree, anyway.
No, not enough elites. Too many brutes.
Too many of the little guys.
Gruntage.
Is that what?
Too many grunts.
Too many grunts. Okay, gotcha.
That's me. Number
Yes.
3, Vanquish.
Oh, Vanquish, me boy.
Yes, another Sega game, an older one this time. I've been promising myself for about 2 years that I'd go back to this. Played it for. I didn't actually review it. That's why I didn't play that much of it. But I got it when it came out. Played it for about 2 hours, and I was like, "This is really good." But it came out at that time where everything comes out, and in our job, sometimes you just don't have time to do stuff in your spare time at that time of year. And then that kept happening. Finally got back to it this week. Wow, what a game!
Yeah.
Criminally undersold. I mean, a couple of small little issues here and there, one tiny bit of a level which I didn't really like, but everything after that was just outstanding. The way the game moves, it's the only third-person shooter since the first Gears that's done anything remotely interesting or different or new, and it just feels like this should be the revolution a genre needs, but it's just not going to happen. It's just disappeared into the background. It didn't sell. No one's going to take that sort of risk again because it's obviously an expensive game to make. And it kind of mixes the sort of speed and stress of a bullet hell shooter with the violence of a normal third-person shooter. It kind of has that Japanese quality that you just don't get in Western games, that you only get in the highest quality Japanese games, and a little bit of humour as well. And I just feel like once I'm done, I'm just going to go back to the beginning of the game and back up the difficulty and do it again.
It's wicked on hard, actually. It's absolutely wicked on hard. It's one of those great, where they really thoughtful use of the difficulty tiers, and it's a completely different game. But you know, that's my favourite game of all time. So not much I can say that you haven't.
Do you use many of the other weapons? Because at the moment I'm just on heavy assault, and shotgun, and occasionally switching.
I don't think I did before I started. I basically maxed out all levels on my first playthrough. So when I went back, you've still got them. Have you still got the maxed out levels? I can't remember. I think what I did was I jumped back in and started using different weapons for a different playthrough. So have you not had the homing rockets? Because that's level that up. And that's
yes, I have got homing rockets. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. I
But
play
like
around
the
with
disc
weapons.
launcher, I've not used very much, and the lock-on laser.
The big thing that fires the massive green bollock thing, whatever that's called. That's rubbish.
Yeah, okay, good. That's good to know because I'm perfectly happy with what I've got.
There's no need to change it. There isn't like a badass weapon that you're missing out on. It's
Okay.
Those are as good as it gets, which is pretty damn
It
good.
took me about 4 years to understand what the needler does in Halo, so I didn't want to miss out on something equivalent in Vanquish. That's awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. No, there's nothing like that. So you're right. Okay, my number 3 is probably my game of the year. It would be my game of the year if it wasn't for the next game I'm going to talk about. But this one's The Darkness 2, which is just completely and utterly blown me away.
How can you possibly say it's going to be your game of the year in February?
Sorry, I should have explained that better. So far,
Okay.
all this at this deep point of the year, this is already my game of the year. Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of competition, but it's my second. At this point, it's number 2 on my list of games of the year for January and February. It's amazing, and if you weren't thinking about playing it, fucking play it.
Well, I wasn't, but I've been waiting to hear you talk about it because I know that you've already told me you like it, so I've been waiting to hear why.
Did you play the first one?
I did, and reviewed it. I think I gave it an 8 for Games TM back in the day.
So you liked it?
Oh yeah,
I
like Starbreeze games.
See, I like that, but I thought it was a better. I enjoyed the story and some of the things it did on the side rather than the shooting, because I think the Starbreeze engine is shit for shooters as far as I'm concerned.
This isn't Starbreeze, is it?
No, it's not. It's their own engine. I can't remember the team that.
Digital Extreme. I
That's
think.
right. Yeah, they've got their own engine, and it's perfect. It's the game's supposed to make you feel like this all-powerful thing that can do anything on a whim, and when you can aim down the sights and hit something on the other side of the other side of the world with a gun, it's that. I mean, like you know how slick like COD is when you aim down, you know your bullets are hitting where they're supposed to hit and all that stuff. It's exactly like that, and the story's brilliant. The story's great. There's some really it pulls a couple of stunts in the last third that you wouldn't normally find in a shooter. So the fact that they're so unexpected makes them all the more effective.
How long is it?
It's not.
I want to play it.
It's not long. I'd say it's probably between 6 and 8 hours. I'd say.
Okay.
The difficulty is perfect though. The difficulty is like, I love the fact that there was no difficulty spikes. It was just. Yeah, and there are brilliant moments throughout it, and the cel shaded look works Works wonders. It's just kind of this dingy. It's not just the dinginess. It's kind of like a fever dreamy, kind of spaced out, weird. I'm pretty much overwhelmed. I haven't reviewed it yet, which is why I'm sort of so fucking bad at articulating what I think. But
what do the arms do? The darkness arms?
Well, one of them, I think they're the same as what they do. The left one sort of grabs things and rips them off, or can grab people, and the other one just wallops around and does the damage.
Right.
But yeah, you feel like a superhero playing it, and it's completely linear, but it works perfectly for this. And
I'm definitely very, very intrigued. I like anything that is a little bit brave or different.
Oh yeah, there's some cutscenes at the end, and there's these segments where you're in a mental hospital, and you're obviously not supposed to know whether that's real or what's real and what's not. But it takes all of its cues from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but it does it. It's a game that, like, although it's about demons and stuff, it's very subtle about it. Which sounds,
apart from all the limb rending,
apart from the violence, just the way that it tells that story and the way it treats the relationships in it, it's about 10 times more interesting than a franchise sequel like that should be.
Now I'm very intrigued. Very intrigued. It sounds right up my street.
It's done, mate.
That sounds right up my street. Talking of things that are right up my street, my number 2, UFC Undisputed 3. You knew it was going to be up there. Yeah. Basically, it's a game that you need to play with someone like-minded, someone who's really into the sport, because it's a complicated game. They've got to the point now, the third game, that I think they've just accepted the fact that it's a very complicated game. The striking's not too complicated. It's kind of like Tekken. But once you get to the ground or clinch, there's a lot to remember. And if you don't have a fairly decent understanding of what's happening anyway in the sport, like what the positions are called, why they work, what you can do from each position, you're going to struggle, to be honest. So if you accept that that's what it is, like a football game, you need to know, quite a lot about the minutiae of football to really get the most out of it. It does just a really good job of capturing that kind of jump out of your seat, raw moment that MMA does so well. It's catching someone clean, dropping them, and then swarming for the kill. For me, that's like one of those beautifully timed ultras from Street Fighter that, where the whole room just suddenly erupts because you've just hit it, or you just hit the counter just right. Is it as good as EA MMA? I'm not sure. The striking's definitely better in that game. The lateral movement's better. But the ground game is much better in UFC, and there's a lot more positions, there's a lot more depth, and you've got the UFC license, which for a fan like me does help. I played the online, it's still laggy. The game's not out in the UK yet, so I'm hoping when you play local people it's not laggy, because they've done an alpha test and things, so it should be good, because the last 2 games online has been terrible, unplayable. I'm hoping it's good, then I'll play it. If not, I'm going to struggle to find like-minded people to play it with, because games like that, playing against the computer, as good as it is, you don't really want to do it. I don't really want to do it. I don't want to bash through career mode for hours. I haven't got enough time in my life. But I think they've done a really good job, considering Yuke's is about 8 people sleeping under their desks in Japan.
They're not Japanese, they're Japanese, are they?
Yeah, Yuke's Japanese. It's the team that does the WWE games and have done since the first SmackDown on PS1.
Why, whenever I am presented something by them, it's that little stubby American guy?
They try and pretend that it's not, I think. If you ask them about it, they're completely honest about it.
Nevin something? Yeah,
Nevin
Dravinsky, that's right.
Yeah, very, very good, very nice chap.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, ask them about it, and they're completely upfront about it. But at the same time, I think they liked it. It's an American brand. UFC's an American brand. And a kind of an Americana brand as well, and I don't think they want to be upfront about saying it's a Japanese game. And to be fair, a lot of the work is done in THQ Santa Monica as well. He is the producer, Nevin. He's an American. A lot of the designers are American, so I think kind of like the donkey work's done in Japan, but some of the higher end decisions are made in the US. But they've done a good job. It's not perfect, and there's still room for a much, much better MMA game in the future, but no complaints from me. I think they've done a good job.
Nice. Okay, I'm going to search that up later today, actually, funny enough, because I've got to review it. Okay, my number 2 is the best game released this year, absolutely bar none, Catherine. Played it?
No, but interested, and have been since I heard about it.
Honestly, It's one of those games where there's a lot of games you come across that you can't compare them to anything, and I honestly can't compare this to anything.
If
I've
this
tried.
if this was Hollywood and you had to do a high concept pitch for Catherine, what would it be?
I don't know, but it'd be very hard not to make it sound like the worst thing ever created. I mean, the cutscenes, the story is interesting. I mean, it's kind of like a fable about how difficult monogamy is. That's what I took away from it, anyway. And the plot sides is really compelling. The localization job was brilliant because it's most of the time you kind of sort of have to accept how quirky and how off kilter it is. Whereas this feels like it could have been, scripted by or originally sort of developed in the West.
But isn't it a puzzle game as well? Am I missing something?
It is. He has these sort of allegorical stress streams where he's having to fight the way to the top of this structure. Yeah, it's like a block puzzle, but a fantastic puzzle game.
Right. And what is the other part of the game? How does that mechanically speak?
It's cutscenes and it's scenes where you sort of interact with your girlfriend by sending her messages. There's this weird sort of moral system which isn't really a moral system. It's like how well you sort of live up to the ideal of like a Hollywood good guy.
Right.
So basically, if you upset your girlfriend, this meter goes down, and that sort of affects different aspects of the story.
So what we doing? Mass Effect style dialogue trees or choices?
No, it's
how
so hard to.
How do you interact with those scenes?
With the girlfriend,
I
your
understand
girlfriend texts you, and your girlfriend texts you, and you can either be a cunt to her, or you can say, or you basically you can lead her up the garden path about this fling that you may or may not have had. It's so fucking difficult to explain that game, but it grabs you straight from the beginning, and the puzzle side of it is brilliant. It's like it reminded me of Portal and Portal 2 in that you can be convinced. At one point I was convinced, I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to go to a cheat guide and I'm going to find out how to do this, and then you turn it back on half an hour later and you're like, of course, fucking, you figure it out straight away, because it's flexible, but it's just fucking hard at the same time. There's never one solution. It's like there are a million different ways around each puzzle, but you never succeed by mistake. It's the perfect balance, really.
That sounds really interesting.
It is.
I kind of dismissed it as
one of those
you
weird...
look at the cover, and there's a lot of Japanese games with covers that look like that, and they're worth dismissing, basically. But this one doesn't sound like... It sounds like it's a lot more than what it may seem to the casual observer.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So my number one, the game I played the most this week, is a game called Ghost Trick on the iPhone. Ghost Trick was a DS game from the guy Shu Takumi, the brains behind the Ace Attorney games. I don't know if you've played any of the Phoenix Wright games.
A couple.
These are more creative than those, and they're clever games as well, but I never quite got into them because I didn't want a lawyer game that dealt with the paranormal and kind of that cutesy thing. This is a game about the paranormal, so I'm fine with it. Basically, you start the game dead, stuck in the spirit world, and you have to unravel the mystery surrounding your own death. Right? To do this, you're a poltergeist, and you are able to possess inanimate objects in the world and solve puzzles. Now, how you do this? The game will play out like a scenario, a 2D animated scenario, beautifully animated, of something happening. It starts off with a girl basically being killed by a hitman, and then through your spirit powers, you're able to rewind time by 4 minutes, and then try and alter the fate of what just happened by possessing different objects and animating them and working out how you're going to basically move your spirit around this world to change the fate. So, like basically knocking the hitman out the way or hiding the girl. It's really well scripted. It's funny. It's very quirky. Has that kind of like a really well written children's cartoon, not kiddies cartoon, kind of like edgier kids cartoon, or even like a Zelda game level of writing where it is kind of kiddie and weird, but there's some like snarky gags in there as well, and some kind of almost pontification on existentialist stuff as well, but all wrapped up in really easy to digest dialogue. It's I don't know if I said it's funny, it's smart, the systems are really, really clever, the animation's beautiful, and it has a really, really great pricing structure. Basically, it's free. The first hour and a half is free. You go in, find out if you like it, because that's why I took the dive in the first place, because I'd heard a lot about the DS game. So I thought, well, it's free. I'll go and check it out, see if I like it. After the first 20 minutes, I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm in here. Spent another hour. Then you've got the option to buy the next 3 chapters for £3, and then you can do that again and again, or you can buy the whole game for £7. And I was like, this is a brilliant game. It was a £30 DS game a year ago, £7, perfectly formed for iPhone. I'm getting it. So, in answer to your earlier question, yes, I think there is room for games on the iPhone that cost more than 69p.
Just
and I
not
think
up front.
No, and I think this is the way to do it. It won't work for every game, but this is a chapter-based game. I'd be very interested to see how well it does, because I really like the way they've delivered it, and man, what a clever game.
Is it actually a port of a DS game that's out already?
Yes, yeah, it's been out for about a year.
And what was it called?
Ghost Trick.
When's it? Hold on, that really rings the bell. When's it? Is it out now?
Yeah, it's out now. The DS game is pretty famous. A lot of people are talking about it. It did well in end of year awards and things like that in 2011. But yeah, it's much better than the Ace Attorney games for me.
Okay, fair enough. I'll have a look. Okay, right, my number one, and I should imagine this is going to be my number one for the foreseeable future. Battlefield 3. Not a lot to say about it, except whenever anyone asks me to describe it or describe what I think about it, I say it's perfect. Although it blatantly isn't fucking perfect. There's a lot wrong with it, but it's as close to perfection as a game can be, as far as I'm concerned. I never used to like military shooters like this. I never thought I'd be the kind of person that played a game like Battlefield 3 as much as I do. But I do. It's the experience of being in a posse with 4 of your mates and sort of, yeah, collaborating, working together. It's just, you can't beat it. I mean,
it's the stories, isn't it?
Yeah,
every
always
game
come
is
away.
just stories.
That's what a friend of mine was trying to get me to play more COD, and I'm just like, you never have as good, as fucking enjoyable as COD is. You never come away like. A friend of mine told the story in a pub about something that happened in Battlefield in front of the people who never play video games, and they thought it was hilarious. And that's, you don't have experiences like that in Call of Duty.
No, hell no. Call of Duty is just it's a pure video game, and there's nothing wrong with it. But yeah, the moments I've had and this goes back to the Bad Company games as well. The moments that you have in that game, where you're laughing at the time about it, you're telling the other people on your squad who may not have seen it, and they're bantering about it, and then you remember and talk about it later, like you say. An amazing game, but with its problems. But
yeah, we still can't jump. I mean, getting into a squad is still a fucking nightmare. Like, one of us will have to join a game, then one at a time, and we'll be on the other team, and then we'll get on, and there won't be room. Yeah, it's a fucking nightmare. M.A.D, they've started. People have realised how to kill people with the M.A.D, so that happens non-stop now, and that new explosive shotgun that came with the DLC is a joke. But apart from that, well, no, not apart from that, there's shitloads of problems I could list, but it's too good.
It says something about the game that you can reel off a list of problems like that would kill almost every game.
Yeah.
And the fact you're happy to look past it, as am I. Yeah, that says something about Battlefield 3.
Okay, right, well, that's it. That's us done. 20 games. Oh, no, actually, it was 19, wasn't it?
It was 19, yeah.
Okay, all right. But yeah, that's it. We aimed for 40 minutes. We've done, it's hard to tell, 40, 44, 45, something like that. Hopefully, we're going to get it down further next time. Yeah, we'll be back in a week or 2 weeks. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Going somewhere, Jarek? Jax! I thought you were going to... Thought I was what? Dead? Like my partner you just tossed off the cliff?